Hi, everyone. Welcome to the Canadian Passive Investing Show. I'm your host, Ava Benasaki, and I'm joined by my co-host, August Beniaz. We have another great show for you today. Please like and subscribe as it helps us build our channel and allows us to keep bringing you great content and expert guest speakers. Our mission is to empower investors to earn passive income through real estate investing. Today, we're joined by Logan Freeman. A little bit about Logan. Logan Freeman is the co-founder of FTW Investments. Logan oversees the company's acquisitions and investment strategies. He also personally selects all key investment markets and asset classes to meet the goals of investors. Prior to FTW Investments, Logan was the director of acquisitions for a fund where he originated the concept, developed the operating plan, and created the company's products worth over $50 million. He also acquired 225 doors in little over a year and completed a portfolio refinance, returning all the investors' capital as well as maintaining positive cash flow.
Cash flow.
Prior to his entrepreneurial activities, Logan was an All-American college football athlete at the University of Central Missouri, where he Sorry, thank you, Missouri.
Missouri is this
Missouri. I love that. That's great.
Where he graduated from in 2013. After his final season in college, he was picked up as an undrafted free agent by the Oakland Raiders. Awesome. Now, we believe this interview with Logan will bring great value to active and passive investors looking to learn more about how acquisitions and asset management of a real estate private equity firm are managed. Welcome, Logan. Thank you so much for being here.
Welcome, Logan.
Well, thank you both for having me. I'm very excited to be here today and hopefully, give some glimpses of wisdom that maybe I've learned over the years.
Oh, no, that's going to be a matter of fact, not hopefully. So we were certain that you're going to be adding a lot of value. So we're excited about this show.
Absolutely.
Awesome.
Perfect.
Okay. Oh, yeah. So,
I wanted to start off on this one.
Please, go ahead. So, Logan, please tell us about your background and your start in real estate.
Yeah. So, I grew up in Jefferson City, Missouri, and I'm just Missouri. And, that's the capital of Missouri. And I recently, go back to this as I've got two children now, but it reminds me of Carol Dweck's book, Mindset. And she kind of lays out two mindsets, the growth mindset and the fixed mindset. And fixed mindset kind of saying, hey, look, this is the way it's been always, and this is the way it's going to continue to be. Growth mindset saying, you know what, I'm going to put a stake in the ground and say, I can make some changes. And it doesn't always have to be the same as it has in the past. And I detail that because Jefferson City is a great place. It really is. It's a great, safe environment to grow up in, but there's not a lot of the growth mindset. And so when I moved to Warrensburg for college, I started to visit Kansas City being, 10 times bigger than Jefferson City. And maybe even 15 or 20 times bigger, just a lot larger. And I just started to see different opportunities, different businesses. I would meet people from Kansas City. They would talk about certain things. And then I would meet people from other cities. And I was like, you know what, I got to get out of Jefferson City. And so when I graduated college, I like you mentioned, I was picked up as an undrafted free agent, but I didn't love the athletic endeavors after college. What I loved about athletics in college was teamwork. It was goal oriented. You were working for the next man right next to you. And when you get to that next level, it's business, baby. It is all business. And that's fine to an extent, but I didn't have the passion, the drive, the fire that I felt in college when I went to the next level. And so I was ultimately cut from the NFL. I had the opportunity to head over to San Francisco and play for the 49ers. And, I put another stake in the ground and I said, no, I'm changing my identity. I'm not going to go and play football anymore. And so that's when I went back to school and finished my master's program. But this is really when a massive shift in my mindset really happened. I was an offensive lineman, so I weighed 335 pounds at the NFL Combine. And 6 months later, I was 219 pounds. And so I lost over 100 pounds while working full-time and going to school full-time. And I had to drive an hour to the job that I had from my apartment in Warrensburg. And I heard somebody say, hey, you need to turn your car to your classroom on wheels. And so I did. So I got 2 hours of education outside of kind of my master's program in real world economics and real world theory, right? So listening to folks like John Lee Dumas and Lewis Howes and the Rich Dad, Poor Dad guys, it just started really opening up my mind. And so I graduated, had a job, that I landed in Kansas City with Jimmy John's as their youngest franchise consultant that they had ever hired. But when I was moving out, the week that I was moving out, my dad, 6'3", strapping Native American, dunk a basketball, hit a golf ball 325 yards, couldn't walk up the stairs at my small little apartment. And he had battled drugs and alcohol addiction his whole life. Well, 2 weeks later, my dad passed away from complications of that. And so I had another really big turning point in my life. So young man, you can imagine, just getting out of the NFL, finishing up school, moving to a new city, and then losing my dad. I really had to kind of reinvent who I was as an individual, which I know we'll talk about later. But moved to Kansas City, was with franchise consultant with Jimmy John's for about a year. And, I kind of started seeing what was next. And I brought that to my boss and he said, well, look, man, you got to put your time in. And I could not understand the concept of being paid the same as somebody that wasn't performing at the same level that I was. And so 2 weeks later, I was out of there. I joined a startup company here in Kansas City with 2 other people. So I was like, the third person on staff, and really was able to get paid for what I was worth and help scale that company. I left that company, met my wife and best man at that company. So it was a great endeavor for me, but left there, went to a larger company here in Kansas City. 15 months in, I could tell something wasn't right. And I was kind of forcing myself every day to get up and go there and drive and really just dreading my time. Well, I'm a pretty stubborn guy. I had just gotten married. I was trying to be safe and comfortable. Well, I think God had different plans for me. And so I was fired. One morning I woke up with an email saying you need to be at the office at 6 a.m. I brought my own box with me to grab my books because I knew I was on the way out. So when I got fired, I called my wife and I said, hey, babe, I'm out. And she said, no worries. Check your email whenever you get home. I'm like, okay. So I checked my email. My wife had already started what is now my holding company in real estate, LiveFree Investments. And so I had 100% support from her from day one. But I knew I didn't know much about real estate at the time. I had read the books, sure, but I had never got out there in theory. I knew what I was doing, but in practicality, I had no idea. And so I joined as the head of acquisitions for a $50 million fund here in Kansas City, and I got to learn the ropes. And like you mentioned, we did these were all single family homes. And so, a portfolio, and this was back in 17, 18, when you could still do this at scale in Kansas City. You can't anymore, but we did a big CoreVest portfolio refinance and returned that capital to those investors, and it was still cash flowing. And I sat down with those sponsors, and this was the light bulb moment for me was, I said, well, where did the money come from? And they said syndication, right? And I never heard that word before. So that set me on a new trajectory of really understanding what is this business? What is syndication? And so I started reading the books, going to the conferences and networking my tail off. And I said, okay, this is what I want to do. And I brought that to the broker that I was working with at the time. And he said, that's great, but that's not what I do. And you're going to get your lunch eaten. There's a lot of big players out there. And I said, all right, see you later. So I left that company and started working with larger buyers. So 1031 exchange buyers with larger multifamily and commercial shopping centers, and started doing those transactions just to get another 2 years under my belt before I ever bought my first piece of property. And after doing about $450 million in sales, all on the acquisition side, I said, okay, I think I can start to figure out, what I'm going to buy myself. And I got a little bit of capital. And so I went in and I started purchasing some properties and quickly realized that at scale, if you want to do anything at scale, you got to get a team. And there were some really things that I was really good at in the business, but there were some things that I really didn't enjoy. So I kind of had that same feeling when I was back at that job that I was fired of. It's like some of these pieces of the business I don't enjoy, I'm not good at. I need to figure out how to solve for that. And so I did a big skills assessment myself. Then I thought about the commercial real estate industry as a whole, looked at the transaction process, broke it down, and figured out what my sweet spot is. And then I went out and networked my tail off for another 12 months and found 2 partners that I have to this day, that we've grown FTW with that can handle the other aspects of our business. And that's what's really allowed us to kind of scale to the position that we're in now. So I know that was a lot of information, a lot of background. So I'm just going to pause there. I'm sure we want to unpack some of that.
Absolutely. Yeah. And
Absolutely.
lots of information, but a lot of great information. And thank you for your transparency, and thank you for sharing a lot of this information. I want to focus on a couple of things you said, particularly with living in Jefferson City and feeling, that maybe you've hit the ceiling there and looking for, growth. And it reminds me of the Ava story where she becomes a number one agent in a small city called Fort Saskatchewan and says, hey, no, this is not what I want. I'm making good money. Sorry, I'm telling your story
No,
here,
absolutely.
but looking to go to the big city, and makes the move to Vancouver, and then eventually we meet and we start CPI Capital, realizing the problem that existed. So
yeah, and really found our purpose in life, right?
So
it's
it
very similar to
definitely
your stories. I can resonate.
resonate for sure, absolutely. And yeah, the other part is, coming to this realization of this concept of syndication or real estate private equity, working with a group you're working with, and realizing that, the equity piece, debt comes from the bank, deals, they get their deals through you sourcing those deals, and the equity comes from the group of investors, and you're realizing that, hey, all right, what is this syndication? What is going on here? It's really interesting to see that. But that also talks about your business acumen and your astuteness in business to realize that, hey, what is this? Let me pursue this a bit farther. Let me investigate this a bit farther. So that speaks of it. So just wanted to quickly unpack that. And and kind of getting to the next topic is about this concept of syndication. If you like, please go ahead.
Absolutely, Logan. I wanted to discuss the concept of syndication, or as we like to call it here, real estate private equity. When did you first realize this strategy existed, and how did it change your perspective about real estate investing? Why don't we touch on that, please?
Yeah, I mean, the first point that I found this out was when I sat down with those sponsors. They raised a fund, so it's a little bit different than just doing single asset syndications. But the concept being the same thing is that you can pool collective resources together and go do something larger, right? So it's kind of like the same team framework that I had in college. I was like, man, I think that's a really interesting way to think about doing these types of business, because I'd be driving up and down, because I was a broker, so I'd be driving up and down the cities in the streets saying, man, that's a big property. I wonder who owns that. And then you go look to see who owns it. It's an LLC. And you're like, well, I wonder who owns that LLC. And then, you see some names start to pop up. And so what I did was, the best learning that I ever did was find out who owned these properties here in Kansas City, who was in this business, and start meeting with them and asking them, saying, hey, look, I read this book about these things, and that's great, but how are you doing this? Like, you're doing it right now. And so I started to shadow people, right? Like, I started to shadow people that were successfully in the private equity space in real estate, either as operators, as capital allocators, as deal finders, whatever it was. And I found out that there's a few groups that are vertically integrated. And that is what really interested to me, because, myself and my partners, I hate to say it, but we're control freaks. And I mean that in a good way. I saw a lot of real estate transactions before I ever bought my first deal. And where I saw the breakdown was when the owner did not have a piece of control of their business, and they could not positively affect change, right? They had to rely on somebody else. And so I started to hone in on the groups that I knew in Kansas City that were vertically integrated, from acquisitions, brokerage, property management, construction, leasing, asset management, finance, you name it. And that was really interesting to me. And as I met with these individuals, a few of them wanted me to come work for them, of course. But I said, what, I think that I might work myself into another job that I hate. And I just need to be able to try to prove this to myself, that I can go build this thing out. And I was willing to be patient. I was willing to be patient in the sense that, I did not get started doing, 400 unit properties. I got started doing, 35 unit properties, then 45, then 55, then the hundreds came, right? And so for me, it was just learning from these people who were successfully doing it. And when I would meet with them, I would pull these things out. Like, for example, I was like, hey, where are you finding investors? It's like, well, I play a lot of golf, and, I'm a part of this country club. And I was like, that's cool. But I got to separate my time from being able to scale my business. It's one of the commandments, the 5 commandments of business, is being able to separate your time from what you're actually doing, utilizing leverage through capital, people, or technology. And so I said, well, have you ever thought about utilizing digital marketing and social media to find investors? No. So I quickly found out that there was this kind of old boys network, so to speak, that they kind of did projects as groups, and those groups have been together for 25 years. Well, I'm 32 years old. I don't have 25 years worth of connections. I needed to go build those. And so out of the books that I read, Joe Fairless, Michael Blanc, all those platform builders, John Kasman, I started following all these folks. I said, okay, well, what can I do to start building a platform that's going to attract those types of investors? Sure, I still go to the events here in Kansas City. I still make sure I'm on nonprofit boards and meeting individuals that are business owners. That's very important. But how do I scale that a little bit faster? And it was through LinkedIn. And that's where I put a lot of my time in regards to building a platform in LinkedIn. So I hope that answers the question. I know we touched on quite a few things there, but I'll stop there for a sec.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And we talking about, real estate private equity or syndication, you can't really talk about it without talking about equity, investor relations, capital raising, as you were touching on. Mm-hmm. And you can't talk about raising capital without building a brand, just like what you said. A lot of people, they leverage the network they're part of. We know a lot of physicians or surgeons, doctors who've left their profession and are involved in real estate private equity as allocators or raising capital or advisors or what have you, because they're leveraging that platform, that fraternity that they're part of. Yeah. But in your case, since you don't have that fraternity, you're not going down the route of becoming a member of a golf club, a country club, but it is to build that brand, like the greats of the business, that just like you said, Joe Fairless and Michael Blanc's teach. Yeah. Now, to create that brand, talk to us about creating the brand and the different strategies you utilize to create a brand, because just like our mentor Dan Hanford talks about, creating that brand, having a platform that you create content on is great, but it's about having as many fishing lines out there as possible. How do you navigate? How do you assess where to put your time and resources and where to focus? You touched on LinkedIn as well, but talk to us when you come to this realization that, hey, I got to build a brand around myself and my private equity firm. I got to create content. What was your first step and how did you grow about it? Because we've noticed you, and that's why you're on our show.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Well, I think the first thing is this, action creates curiosity. And when you're making things happen, whether that be, out there hustling, talking to people, doing deals on the brokerage side, whatever it is, that creates curiosity because your name starts to pop up on the real big hitters kind of list. And you keep seeing your signs out there. They see your emails or they see you at events or things like that. And so I just started documenting what I was doing. That was day one, was just like, hey, what am I doing on a regular basis? That might create some curiosity. I'm a big reader. And so I started to share kind of what my schedule looked like. I started to share the learnings that I was getting out of books. I started to share the deals that we were closing. I started to share a little bit more on the personal side on certain platforms as well, just so I could get people understanding who I was as an individual. What that has kind of, I'll say, leveraged into or transpired into is now more that I've got, some experience, is now I can start to talk to actual things that are happening in my market, in the macroeconomic environment, in commercial real estate in general, because now, 5 years later, we've done some things, right? And so now my brand positioning is more of a thought leadership on, hey, I'm reading Ray Dalio. This is what I'm seeing. This is what I'm feeling. This is what I'm hearing. And this is how I think it's going to affect what we're doing, right? So then it becomes, okay, well, what can I share on a regular basis that's going to create that curiosity, not just about me, but more focused on the business and what we're doing now? I think what happens is a lot of people get started and they're like, well, I don't have anything to share. I haven't done anything. Well, that's not true. You've done a lot of things, and they may not be the things that you've done compared to, what you're trying to do, but you need to be able to share and know who your identity is and find your own unique voice first. That will then leverage into the experiences that you can share. And so I think that my wife always says, I could never, build something that you're building. I said, why? She said, you are just so open. And you're so willing to take criticism and share your failings and your learnings and all of these things. And I'm like, well, I think that humility is a part of humanity, right? I mean, if you can be humble, you're going to be able to connect with a lot more people. And so that was kind of how I got started on the brand side of things. But I was meeting, 5 to 6 people a day, so I really filled my schedule up with phone calls, with LinkedIn connections, with in-person meetings that really helped me kind of shaped my voice and find that voice for me that allowed me to then, obviously add value to those individuals. And what I got, after 2.5 years of kind of meeting 40 to 50 people a week, which I know is a lot. And I would have a pretty rigorous process of how am I going to add value to this person, but I would recap emails with meetings. So I don't know, you guys meet with a lot of people, but when I meet with somebody that I know is going to be advantageous to my business, I make sure to send an email recap with the things that they said specifically, the value that I got out of it, and what I'm going to do. And I did that over 2.5 years.
That's,
and then guess what?
That's a golden nugget right there.
Yeah,
Wow.
it's a golden nugget right
And
there.
then the referrals just started turning on. I mean, because they have an email from me and they can say, oh, somebody said commercial real estate, Kansas City. I'm going to search that. And then my name popped up and they say the value, and then have that email that brought them some joy because they got something out of the meeting that I was there, or I connected with them with somebody else. And now that reciprocity, the law of reciprocity that Cialdini always talks about is in motion. And so that took some time to get that momentum going. But now it's like, thousands of people reaching out on a regular basis. And I have to have, gatekeepers up just to make sure I can keep doing what I need to be doing. But that was really important, is knowing who my identity was, which I had done that work after, going from the NFL to what I'm doing now. Understanding that, hey, I don't have the experience that I want to have, but I do have some knowledge and experience of what I'm doing right now. Like, how did you lose 100 pounds? How did you read 750 books? What did you get out of them? If you're a curious person and you're doing cool things, that's going to attract people to you, and you can start sharing that first. And then as you get going in your business, then you can start sharing things like that. I think people get started trying to share things like, hey, I'm this thought leader, but I haven't done a deal yet, but you should listen to me. That's where it's kind of like this emotional or mental disconnect, because they don't know who you are and they don't know what you've done. And now you just kind of transition from a salesperson to a real estate person, and without giving them any why. How about taking a year and posting on, hey, here's been my transition process through this. I know a lot of people you're thinking about transitioning out of their W-2 job into something else. Document that journey. So just things like that really help me connect with individuals, and, has led to over 17,000 followers on LinkedIn now, which is just unreal, in the time frame that I've been on that platform.
I don't think it's unreal because, watching you on LinkedIn and researching you a bit on there, I believe you've had over 100 articles posted on LinkedIn. When you compare that to others, and these are, comprehensive, detailed articles about different aspects of real estate, private equity, and other wealth building strategies. So that right there talks about, how much dedication and time you've put into creating that. That free content that goes right into your followers. So there must be great benefit that exists there as well. So,
and I love what you said there. Connecting with people is number one. And then becoming a thought leader, it builds that know, like, and trust that we always talk about, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
People need to know, like, and trust you in order to want to do business with you. But you hit them with the connecting with them first. And when people can relate to you, that's where they want to work with you as well. So you've done a great job, Logan.
And educate them, create content. Now I usually take, I make this comparison with the real estate private equity business, and I, compare it to a pie. And I say, okay, if you look at the real estate private equity business was on the operational side, how is this business, how is this business conducted? And I say it's conducted is looking at it as a pie divided into three sections. One piece of the pie is the equity piece, is the investor relations, raising capital, investor communications, and what have you. Another piece of the pie is the acquisition, is the deal, finding the deal, relationship with brokers, underwriting, physical due diligence, financing. I put it also in the same piece. And the other piece of pie is the management, the asset management, the property management, the value add, renovations. That's the other piece. But and usually sponsors, operators, general partners, they fit into one of these pieces and they run with it, and they either bring in employees, executives, or they bring in partners to fill in the other places. But what is evident to us after speaking with you is that not only your boots on the ground, literal boots on the ground, because you're already acquisition director for this other private equity firm finding deals. You're already doing that in full scale, and I'll get into the very unique strategy you've put into place for as a buyer's agent for multifamily, and we'll discuss that in a moment. But then now you're also talking about being a thought leader, going out there, doing all this research, gaining all this knowledge, and then sending that knowledge to your community, to your investor community, to your community on LinkedIn. So that's also working on the investor relations side of it. So how are you balancing the two? Which one do you see you fit into the best? How are you balancing your time being involved in both? And talk to us about that dynamic of being involved in investor cultivation and nurture, and also on the deal side, acquisition, and the deal flow side.
Yeah. Great question. So I think the way I'll start with this is there's a difference between being a real estate investor and being in the business of real estate investing. And we are absolutely in the business of real estate investing, which means we handle all of those aspects. And early on, we did self-manage quite a few properties, and we saw an opportunity to acquire. And so it was like, hey, which business do we want to scale? Is it the property management business, or is it the acquisitions business? And I'm thankful that we scaled our acquisitions business, because COVID happened and gave us a really great opportunity to make a big splash, which was really important. But now, I'm transitioning the last 15 months from kind of being a solopreneur with 2 partners and an admin to a full-scale team. And what I mean by that is, we have 19 people now. And so we're scaling up the business side of this because, it takes a lot to run these properties, as everybody probably knows or should know. But at the end of the day, for me, on the posting side and on the digital marketing and social media side, if I have a new aspect of economics or a new asset class or something that I'm learning, then that becomes what I'm posting about. So if you trend and look at the trends on what I'm posting, every week there's kind of 5 different topics that I'm posting on. One is going to be investment thesis. The other one's going to be a specific asset class I'm interested in. The third one's going to be something around FTW's team. Fourth one is probably going to be a little bit more kind of personal or professional development. And the fifth one's going to be more Midwest, focus. And then usually the sixth one is kind of a Ray Dalio macroeconomic type of thing. Those are all things that are very interesting to me and that I'm learning about. So I'm sharing that. So that kind of just happens I use LinkedIn almost as a tool for me to learn, because what they say is, you can learn, you can read, but until you can teach it, you don't really know it. And so if I'm putting this out there to 17,000 people on a regular basis, I better be ready for those comments. And August, I know for a fact that you don't shy away on LinkedIn. You're going to post something and you're going to get people's feedback. And I absolutely love that. I think that's crucial, because that means you have the confidence to back up what you're saying and to have an engaging conversation, because the things that I post are not always going to be accepted by everybody. And so I'm welcoming the challenge of backing up my position, right? So that's that part of it. In regards to the operations side, I have 2 business partners that are high-level guys that have different backgrounds than I do. And so when we looked at it, you said there's 3 kind of pies, right? The operations, the equity side, and then the management side, right? And so I really focus on the equity and deal finding side of our business because that's naturally where my strengths lie. Their backgrounds are more in operation and finance, right? So we have those 3 pieces kind of taken care of. And then underneath that, we've quickly found that, hey, there's a lot of tasks. So we have this spectrum, right? It's from Perry Marshall, a guy that I really, really like. He wrote a book that's on my desk here, Detox to Declutter to Dominate. And in that book, there's kind of like, not a Venn diagram, but it's just a graph. And it says, okay, all the tasks that you're doing, they fall into these 4 buckets: $10 an hour, $100 an hour, $1,000 an hour, and $10,000 an hour tasks. You have got, as a business owner, you have got to get out of the $10 and $100 task, and you've got to spend your time in less than $1,000 and mostly in $10,000. I've spoke a lot about this, but that $10,000 an hour task is kind of brilliance. It's where you're synthesizing ideas that you hear from other people or other individuals. You bring them together in a cohesive manner, not only that are complete at the theoretical level, but they're effective at the applied level, and then you can go put them into action. And that's where we want our principals heads at all the time. $10,000 an hour task. Well, how do you get out of that? Well, you have to delegate. You have to delegate and elevate. And so now it becomes a hiring game, right? So we're attracting talent. Well, guess where we find everybody that works for us? LinkedIn. 100%. People coming to us. I haven't used one of those, sources to find all I got to do is put a posting up and say, hey, go to this link and apply, and we've got 45 or 50 people, right? So I think that's a big part of this is understanding that you have to attract the right talent. Once they come into the business, now there's 3 levels of delegation: directive, which is just like, you do this at this time; objective, hey, I need this done; and then leadership is, hey, you decide what we need to do, but here's the goal that we need to get to, right? And you're trying to get every employee or every person that you're working to more towards that leadership spectrum. That'll allow you to spend more time in the $10,000 an hour task. So for me, this is a $10,000 an hour task because you guys have a great following. We're here, we're chatting about private equity and commercial real estate. That's going to be blown up to, thousands of people, which is very exciting. And I'm spending, an hour here with you guys doing that and talking about the things that are important to the business. $100 an hour task is, hey, I see 114 emails in my inbox right now, and I know that a lot of those don't need my attention. So I have Jill sitting right outside this office going through that inbox right now and starring the ones that need my attention that I need to get back to, right? So there's just things that you can do to delegate and elevate, and you have to become a leader of an actual business. And that's where the brilliance is really created, because leverage through people. I mean, we are in the people business. The commercial real estate business is a people business. And, if you can leverage using people, technology, and capital, that's the 3 areas that we're always trying to figure out, where can we get better at, right? And the biggest part of that for us is people, and so making sure that, hey, we have 60 new investor leads that I need to call, right? Well, I was doing all those up until 12 months ago, right? And so that was good. It was a good exercise, but it wasn't a $10,000 an hour task. It was probably between that $100 and $1,000 an hour task, because 50% of them were not qualified to really spend time with me and take the next step. So guess what I did? Hired investor relations associate, trained him up for 3 months on calls with me. Now he takes every single call, sends me a list 5 every single week that I need to reach out to personally and have meetings with, right? So now that's a $10,000 an hour task, because the ROI on a $100,000 investor is extremely high. And after you get that first sale, they're just going to become repeat investors if you do what you say you're going to do.
Tremendous
now
wisdom.
That's how you scale a business.
Tremendous wisdom that our friend here is dropping. Truly brilliant young man. And I've never said this on our show but I can't wait to go back and watch this again and take notes and listen to everything that Logan has said so far. Now, this is truly incredible, man. This is amazing just listening to you. Let's take a bit of a focus on one quick thing is.
Sure.
I think we both feel envious about your partners, because they got their acquisition guy and their investor relations guy. I think Ava and I, I'm more involved on the on deal sourcing and finding the right operating partners or boots on the ground. Ava is more on the investor relations side, but we always brag to each other about it. Everyone's like, hey, I'm the most important part of the company, the equity. I'm like, hey, without the deals, the equity doesn't make sense. But then
all jokes, all fun.
Imagine having the partner who does both of those aspects.
Totally.
And then, so I'm definitely envious of your group. But let's bring a quick focus back on you, the broker. It's an extremely important part of the business. You are the boots on the ground. You're sourcing the deals. You know everything about the business. But within that space, outside of your real estate private equity firm, you're also a broker, which services investors who are looking to either get into multifamily or looking to scale their business. And you've created this very unique and interesting strategy to help people. Talk to us about what you've done and how you help people either starting or scaling in purchasing multifamily in your region or other regions.
So, when I got started in the business as a broker, I really wanted to say, hey, what is the unserved and untapped market, and where are folks not being represented? And I found, through bigger pockets and talking with people that, a lot of people fall into 1031 exchanges, meaning, they might own a piece of property, or they inherit a piece of property, or they had a piece of property for a business use and they no longer need it. Or somebody came and said, hey, I'm going to buy this thing from you. And so then they search, selling commercial real estate. And then they're like, oh my gosh, I'm going to have a huge tax liability. And they're like, well, what do I do? And then 1031 exchange pulls up, right? DSTs will also pull up because they pay $9 a click for those leads. I know that personally because I was doing some advertising around that. So DSTs and 1031 exchanges will always kind of pop up whenever you do your search. And I just felt like, if somebody was under the gun, with 1031 exchange, you have 45 days to identify your next 3 properties, really. That really puts a panic in people's kind of minds. And what I was seeing was people were unrepresented, meaning they were reaching out to listing brokers and saying, hey, I've got this 1031 exchange. I want to do this deal, or I need to do this deal. And that's when the lights would turn on for the other broker, because they're like, unsophisticated, not represented, more fee for me, don't know what they don't know. And so I started to grab those people and say, hey, come over here. I will find you a property, represent you, underwrite the deal. And you need a lender, you need a property manager, you need a general contractor. I've got all those referrals. You need insurance. I've got it taken care of. So we put it into this system, buyer's representation success system. And we put that out to the ethos and said, hey, we can help 1031 exchange buyers. And that was well received. And so that's where our brokerage really focuses on, is this $2 to $8 million kind of transaction size that, if you have a 1031 exchange larger than that, you typically are sophisticated enough, or you have a team that's going to help you kind of do that. But there was this nice little niche market that people were unrepresented that we could kind of bring in, talk about the process and say, okay, let's alleviate some of this stress that you have. And then we would then go identify a property either off market or on market, saying, hey, I see this listed deal. Can you help me understand, is this a good project? So then we would start to go to, properties and do virtual tours and all of these different things. And so for me, that has transitioned into 2 things. One is an online marketplace for 1031 exchange buyers, which we're building right now. Meaning, hey, got a 1031 exchange, you log into our marketplace, there's off-market deals there that you can get access to. But the biggest part of this is a lot of these investors would say, Logan, I have no interest in being an active investor in any type of real estate deal, but I also don't want to pay my taxes, and I also don't want to go into a Delaware statutory trust and get 4%. I said, okay, well, how can we help? Well, tenancy and commons, right? So we put ticks together. And so we'll start putting 2 or 3 1031 exchanges together, go identify a larger property, and then guess who manages it? FTW takes care of all the asset management, all of the property management. And then this is kind of a newer iteration to this, is like this opportunity for someone to say, hey, I want to actively own this real estate. I don't want any partners on it, but I still don't want to manage it. We have a private account kind of model where we do the asset management and property management, and we have a fee-based model for this, but we're not the owner of any of the real estate. So it still allows somebody to be the sole owner, but be passive. And so that model has really started to pick up a lot of steam. And so, the 1031 exchange market is so large. It's a big market, and there's a lot of folks that need a lot of support, and there's a little niche inside of that we can help on. And that's what I started to build out. So we have a full-time broker, transaction manager, asset managers, all focused on helping these 1031 exchange buyers complete their transactions. And I just have not heard that or seen that model in very many markets. And so what we're doing is proving this out. We've done this the last 3.5, 4 years, but proving out this online marketplace, and then hoping to take that to different markets and say, hey, Keller Williams or, KW Commercial or whoever it is, here's a new module that you can bolt on into your training, utilize our marketplace and our system, and be able to really tap into working with buyers, which traditionally has not been a focus for many brokerages.
Brilliant. And is this currently in your region where you are, or are
it's in Kansas and Missouri right now? Yes, absolutely.
You're looking to expand, and you're looking to kind of creating a platform where other brokers can utilize it as well when they have
exactly
certain type of clients. Or
that's a really cool business model. There was a problem that people had. You found a solution to that problem, and you brought it together, and that's how great companies are formed. So
yeah, and I think that commercial real estate's been done a certain way for a long time. Well, the internet's here, blockchain's here, and it's going to really shape our industry in the next 5 years. And so making sure that your brokerage or your individual companies can adopt the new technology is going to be very important. Look, commercial real estate owners are becoming younger and younger, right? I'm 32 and have 1,400 units, that's just what is happening. And so that's going to force people to get online, and transactions are going to happen there. And we want to be kind of at the forefront of that, or at least ready for that new wave of transactions that do happen.
Incredible. And most times when you listen to a podcast or watch a YouTube show, there's a lot of motivation. There's a lot of, upbuilding. But let's also talk about, the
Yeah.
resilience that's needed to persevere through the process. I'm sure everything hasn't been a royal flush for you. You talk about, being cut from the NFL. You talk about your father passing away from drugs and alcohol, which must be very difficult for you at the time. You talk about, your wife having your back and, being shoulder to shoulder and, helping you succeed. But talk and ourselves, Ava and I, being in the real estate private equity business, because it's a very dynamic and it's actually a juggling act because of those different components that exist within it. In our case, we're also investing in the U.S. We're located in Canada. We help Canadian and U.S. investors invest into U.S. multifamily, but it creates a lot of difficulties at different levels. So talk to us about the resilience. Also, going to your DNA, going to how you're built and being an athlete. Athletes always have this a certain drive to them, a certain focus to them. So what has been that factor within you? Is it part of your genes? Is it something that you've helped cultivate, and something you've helped build within inside you to become resilient, to roll with the punches? And talk about that journey and the difficulties you went through to achieve and reach success where you're at today.
Yeah, I think the first word I would start with is clarity. And you have to have clarity on not just who you are as an individual, but clarity on what you're trying to accomplish. A lot of shiny objects out there, my favorite story is kind of like the story of 5 feet from gold. These 49ers went out to this land speculation. They started digging. They were out there for 3 months, and they stopped digging. And they sold the land for a loss, and somebody came onto the land, and 5 feet down, they hit the gold mine, right? So it's like this, you just have to stay in the game. I think that is the biggest piece of this. And I learned this in college in football. I mean, I was an offensive lineman. I had a job every single play to block the man in front of me. And it wasn't like I was a wide receiver. If it was a running play, across the field, I could take the play off. It was just, you had to stay very steady all of the time. And so I focus a lot on emotional intelligence. I focus a lot on breathing, stress management. Always being able to tell somebody you hate them tomorrow. That's from Abe Lincoln, right? So you write it down, you put it in a drawer, and if you still feel that same way,
Lincoln letters. It's called the Lincoln letter. Lincoln, after his passing, they found all these letters in his desk.
Because his wife, he would give them to his wife to go mail, and she would put them in a drawer.
Okay.
No joke. So it's just things like that I think you have to stay very emotionally kind of resilient through this whole process. And I was at a real estate conference recently, and I heard it put very well by a very successful individual. He said, this is a knife fight every single day. And it's a knife fight personally with your own emotions, but also competing out there in the marketplace, doing what you said you were going to do and showing up. I mean, unfortunately, there's not a lot of days off in the real estate space. We own buildings that people live in. And so there's if it's Christmas, there's things that need to happen, right? I mean, so there's a big snowstorm. We just got a foot of snow the other day. There's things that need to happen. That snow needs to be plowed, So I think for me, it was understanding my identity, getting clear on who I wanted to be, how I was going to deal with the world. And a lot of that came from my dad. I mean, my dad was a really great individual in a lot of ways. And my dad always told me that you can achieve whatever you want in life, but you have to set your mind to it. And, I don't know if that's why two of my top talents through Strength Finders is discipline and focus. But that's what it is, and for me, it's being able to put blinders on, know that I have a goal, and then set every direction straight towards that. And I don't get really sidetracked with TV shows or social media or things like that, because I study stoicism so much. So being able to delay gratification now. Hey, when's the last time you guys took a cold shower? Like mine was this morning, and my wife's like, why do you do that to yourself? It's because I want to do something tough right in the morning, because if I can get over that and I can make my bed, I've got 2 wins already going on. It's just things like that just kind of mentally just sharpen you and harden you. And seeing my dad's decisions and him no longer being here, never meeting my wife, never meeting my children, that it really hits it home because I never want to be that for my children, right? I mean, I want to be here to see who they marry, walk my daughter down the aisle, all of those things. And so at the very core, I would say I am scared to death of mediocrity. I am scared to death, like Ed Milet says, to die and meet the man that I could have been. And so that is what drives me every single day, is to be the best version of myself, use my God-given talents and develop them into strengths, and hopefully, achieve good things in life. And then maybe even bring some people along with me on the journey is another piece of that.
Amazing. Logan's got more quotes than Instagram.
He's
Damn, man. Damn, brother.
very knowledgeable. Very knowledgeable.
Absolutely.
Yeah, we really appreciate you.
Amazing. Yeah.
I was gonna go ahead and ask Logan this before we move to our next segment of our show. But Logan, what would be your advice that you would have for a passive investor that's looking to start investing in real estate private equity? Love to hear your opinion on this.
I think it's be quick, but don't hurry. I mean, this is a get wealthy slow game. And, it's not just the next get rich quick, scheme. And if you try to do it that way, you can really get yourself into a bad position with your brand, bad position with yourself and financially, and then emotionally, you can get really disturbed because you're wishing that something could happen that won't happen because it's out of your control, right? So it's back to that stoicism. I can't control what the Fed does to interest rates. I can't control what the next guy is going to pay for that building. What I can control is the relationships that I'm building with the people that have the relationships with the owners of that. And when the time is right, they will call me, right? So it's a part of being patient, but not getting in a hurry, and just being quick, being able to pivot quickly. Like, for example, acquisitions are tough right now. Everybody knows that. Well, why did I start this brokerage, 3.5 years ago? Well, it's because in times that you cannot purchase, there are people with lower cost of capital that need your support, that need your services. And so if you can't purchase, then maybe you can help somebody else purchase, right? So there's just different things like that you have to be ready for, and you have to be patient. So be quick, but don't hurry would be my best advice, I think. And just be patient with the results. The other way to put this is, be impatient with actions, but patient with results. I think that is so important. You just got to stay the course.
Very good advice.
Excellent. Great.
Awesome, Logan.
Let's move on to the next segment of our show. And, looking forward to hearing these
I
these
definitely
answers.
am looking forward to hearing Logan's answers. It's called the 10 Championship Rounds to Financial Freedom, whatever comes top of mind. I'll start with the first question, Logan. Who is the most influential person in your life?
For me, it's Jesus Christ. I'm a big Catholic guy. And so, reading the Gospels every single morning and trying to live that out is my main focus, and an absolutely influential person for me every single day.
Amazing. Awesome. Now, what's the number one book you recommend?
Okay, well, this is a hard question.
Yes.
How about this?
750 books, I bet
Yeah, I
is
was gonna say.
a hard question to answer.
If I had to gift one book, the only book the rest of my life, it would be Gary Keller's The One Thing. And underneath that one, I would have Essentialism by Greg McKeown too, because they're very similar theories, but in a different way. So that message can hit somebody a little bit different. But really, it's just focusing out the one thing that, if completed, will make everything else easier or unnecessary. And, a lot of times we make, as humans, we make really simple problems very complex, and they don't ever have to be that way. So you need to look for the simple answer in things and make sure you have focus and clarity. And those two books, I would definitely gift to a lot of people. I have gifted a lot to a lot of people.
Incredible.
Awesome. All right. If you had the opportunity to travel back in time, what advice would you give your younger self?
Oh man, don't have such an ego. I would say, whenever I was playing football and even afterwards, 10 foot tall and bulletproof, and you don't know everything, and the wiser you get, the less you know, and so for me, it's really, it would really be about, hey, keep your ego at home and, focus on humility. That's what I would tell my younger self.
Incredible. If we ever host an event, I want to have Logan as one of our speakers.
100%. I was thinking the same thing.
All right.
Thank you.
Can you tell we really like you, Logan?
I like you guys too.
All right. I'm curious about this one. What's the best investment you've ever made?
Oh man, I mean, I'm sure many people have said, the investment in myself. I won't say that. I'm going to say the best investment I ever made was relentlessly pursuing my wife, and the investment being all of the money that I spent on dates and different gifts. My wife still gets flowers every single week. For me on a regular basis, but the investment in my wife and the time in that relationship, there's a saying like, behind every great man there's a better woman, right? And for me, that is absolutely true. She keeps me grounded, she keeps me confident, she builds me up, she brings me down when I need to be, and she keeps me humble. And that is so important in life. So finding that partner that you can do life with, that you guys have complementary skills and truly love each other, that investment in that relationship absolutely has been the best one that I can ever make.
Love that. Love that answer. All right, Logan, what's the worst investment you've ever made, and what lessons did you learn from it?
I am the worst at buying a course online and then never going to log in. And so I would have to say this. I will see a new course on copywriting or a new course on investor relations or something like that, and then forget that I bought it, and it will just sit there. These are $1,000 courses, that I just never have the time, or I never make the time to actually go do it. So I'm like so gullible when it comes to that, because I read it, I'm like, that's going to be wonderful, I'm going to do it at this time, and then life happens and I don't actually get to it. So I would say, if you do have a product or service, send it to me, because I'll probably buy it. But the worst investment is buying those things and never using them. And I know that they would be helpful, but I just I don't make time to do it.
All right. We have that problem too sometimes, so we can relate. Yeah. All right. How much would you need in the bank to retire today? What's your number?
Oh, wow. Oh my goodness. You guys stumped me with this one, because I'm not sure. Maybe $1 billion. And I don't even know if I would stop. I mean, it's a part of who I am now and what I do. And so, I heard a quote one time. It says, what you do is not who you are, but it is a big piece of it, right? I mean, it is a big piece of it. And I look at what I do on a regular basis as kind of a reflection of what I'm trying to accomplish as a legacy. And so for me, just somebody handing me a big old check and saying, hey, you can't do anything the rest of your life, or you got to retire. I might die, I may just kind of roll over at that time and get really sad and depressed. And so, but if somebody did give me $1 billion, I would use that to be a passive investor in your guys' deals. That's for sure.
Love it.
Love it. Absolutely.
All right. If you could have dinner with someone dead or alive, who would it be?
Oh man, another great question. Okay, so right now I think I would have dinner with Ray Dalio, one of the most successful hedge fund managers in the world ever. Mostly because of his breadth of knowledge, not just with investing. I mean, he created the all-weather portfolio, right? Like, come on, guys, like that's just unreal. Like, it wasn't even out there, and he just like created this diversified income stream or portfolio that can weather all the storms. But his knowledge of China, his knowledge of capital markets, and everything that he has experienced in his life, I truly believe he is one of the last gems that is out there that's taking his last segment of his life and then passing that on to us. And so I would love to have a dinner with Ray Dalio. He might not be able to get me to leave. I may stay there for as long as possible, but that's who I would pick.
Right on, right on. Next question. If you weren't doing what you're doing today, what would you be doing now?
Well, I think I would probably I would be involved in solving or doing my part to help the affordable housing crisis and figuring out how to end homelessness, at least in my own community. So that would be some civic organization to work with government leaders, but also nonprofits and for-profit businesses. I think there would be, and I do see myself transitioning into that at some point of trying to be a conduit to say, look, I've seen it on all sides, and how can we actually bring something together? The way that you have that impact is you don't have to go raise money to do it. And so I'm going to do what I'm doing now until I have enough money and credibility and relationships and experience to actually affect positive change in that space. But that's exactly what I would be doing.
Right on. Okay, my favorite question, book smarts or street smarts?
Oh man, I would say I'm a street smarts guy because I just got started when I was 14 years old baling hay in Jefferson City, Missouri, and got the calluses on my hands still to this day. But I've transitioned myself into a book smarts guy after I read enough of those books saying, hey, you don't have to use your brawn to make money. You can actually use your brain. And I think there's a quote around that, something like you got to work smarter, not harder. I think we've all heard that. But that's true. It really is true. There's a different game being played than I've ever seen before. And I've been exposed to those at a level. You think you're doing well, and then you meet with somebody who's been doing it for 45 years, and they're like, yeah, I bought a couple banks and sold a couple banks. And I'm like, aren't you a real estate developer? Yeah, no, I am. It's just things like that where it's just conversations happen and you're like, oh my gosh, that guy hasn't picked up a book his whole life, so he is 100% just street smart. So I think if you compare both of those things together, you can learn from books and then go meet people on the street that are doing it. That's the best way to do that.
Right on. Okay, last question. If you had $1 million cash and you had to make one investment today, what would it be?
Oh man.
And let me rephrase that one more time. So it's $1 million cash. You can make one investment and you have to do it today.
Okay, I got to do it today. So I would call Ray Dalio's team and beg them to take my $1 million and not get off the phone. And I would drive to Massachusetts and drop the check off in their mailbox. And wait till they did it, even though their minimum is, I think, 7.5 billion or something like that. That's what I would try to do. Or if I couldn't get into Ray's fund, I would go find a business owner here in Kansas City that I know that is growing his business in a manufacturing space, and I would invest it there.
Amazing.
Right on. Logan, you're awesome.
You're great, man. I mean, I haven't been this excited to go back and watch one of our shows for a long time. Really appreciate your time and being with us here today. Maybe quickly you can say, what's the best way people can reach you?
Yep. I branded myself as Mr. Kansas City, so you can find me on LinkedIn, Mr. Kansas City. Our website is ftwinvestmentsllc.com. I really appreciate that.
Awesome.
Fantastic. Thanks for being here today, Logan.
Yeah. Thank you guys for having me.